Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, welcome to our Night of Hope. Our Night of Hope consists of addressing stigmas and issues and challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. Mental health is real, and we want everybody to be okay because it's okay not to be okay. Amen? And so tonight we have a wonderful panel that we're going to talk about addiction tonight. We're going to talk about recovery. And so I'm going to invite all of you who are watching and those of you who are here in the audience to stand with me. And we're going to open up with a litany. And following that litany, we will, thank you. And also, while we were standing, if you're here present and you had not had a chance to sign in, we want to encourage you to use the QR code behind me to sign in. We need everybody to sign in. And also, at the end of tonight's discussion, we will also have a survey that we need for you to fill out because we want to make sure that we are providing resources that are beneficial for those who have taken out of their busy evenings to participate in this discussion. So please make sure at the end of the night that you would take some time and fill out the surveys. And so I want to open up tonight with a litany, and those of you who are watching, you can watch online, and it's a litany for breaking chains. And so there's a part that says, deliver me. There's a part that says, and I ask for freedom. Lord, I want you to repeat that part. And so those of you who do not have the hard copy, you can watch on the screen here. A litany for breaking chains. Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. From the bondage of addiction. From the power of darkness and compulsion. From the shame that binds the heart. From the temptation to look back. From the temptation to trust in my own strength alone. From the strength to break chains of substance and behavior. For the grace to choose life over destruction. For the wisdom to seek help and accountability. For healing in the mind, the body, and the spirit. That I may be a light to others who are still in bondage. And we read together, Lord, grant me the courage to walk in freedom you have given me. Amen. All right, put your hands together one more time. And so every 3 months, we do what we call a Night of Hope. And we have those who have lived experience, but also who are clinicians who have moved from darkness into light and who have moved from the substance part of it to getting a formal education and reaching back to help those who are still in darkness. And so we're excited about our panel tonight. And we're going to get ready to bring them up. But we do want you to know tonight that there is hope. Amen? We are living in some times, some strange times, some difficult times, some dark times. But in spite of it all, there is hope. And our prayer tonight is that you will experience and witness and hear the testimonies and the life experience of those who have come out of darkness into light, and that you will be encouraged and motivated to continue on your journey and your path. Before I bring the panel up, I want to briefly acknowledge that we're really going to have a real conversation tonight. You know, we're not going to sugarcoat anything. We want everybody to be transparent. And so, you know, this is a space that we're not looking for perfection, but what we're looking for is honesty and truth. And so I want the audience to know, you know, you might hear some things that might feel and seem and be a little uncomfortable for you. But again, it's okay. This is a safe place, and we want you to be comfortable, but know that we're not sugarcoating anything tonight. We're going to keep it real. We're going to talk about the real, right? Because if you can't face it, then you will never be able to overcome it. Amen? All right, so I'm going to invite our panel to come up, and you all come on up, and we'll do the introduction once you get up. Come on, give them a hand as they come. Well, good evening, good in. Thank you, my lady and gentlemen, for being on this wonderful panel. And if you notice the flyer, we did not use last names. We only used first names. And so we're going to follow that suit tonight. And so what I want to do for my first question is, I want you to answer this question. Tell us who you are, and in one word, describe your life before recovery. And so we're going to go ladies first, and we're going to go to my right.
Okay. My name is Nicole Vinson. My life before recovery was unmanageable.
All right. All right. Gentleman next to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon, and my life before recovery was impulsive.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt. Before recovery, I would say my life was unattainable.
All right, and to my left.
Hello, my name is. Hello, my name is Amani, and my life before recovery was selfish.
Hello. Good evening, Dominique. My life was chaotic.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. Let's give our panel a hand. So my first question would be, what did your life actually look like at the height of your addiction? And I'm going to go to Amani for this first question.
All right. Life at the height of my addiction was very fast. It was very spontaneous. It was very immoral, and it was very painful. And yeah.
All right. Dom, you want to weigh in on that?
I think I was a slave. I was a slave to the disease. My life revolved around the next drug. I was a parent that wasn't there. I was a thief. I was a liar. I was a prisoner. It was bad. It was very bad. I'd rather have been dead at times than just to move through another day. It was tough.
All right, Nicole, I'm going to change the question up a little bit. What were you telling yourself during that time?
I was telling myself that I got to get my life together. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. My marriage is failing. My kids. I have to get my life together. I can't keep doing this. I may lose my children. They may go into the system because me and my husband can't get it together.
All right, thank you. All right, Matt, what were you telling yourself at the height of your addiction?
I would say the main thing I was telling myself is that it was normal. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the way that I was living my life. I didn't at that point realize the damage I was causing, so I didn't really put two and two together until, you know, I had kids and things started to affect them. And just telling myself that the next day didn't matter because I wasn't going to live past today. I didn't really look towards the future at all. It was just a day-to-day thing. When's my next fix?
How about you, Shannon? What were you telling yourself at the height of your addiction?
At the height of my addiction, I was telling myself that this was fun, that this is what partying looks like, that there is no other fun imaginable than this right here. And then I woke up.
Wow, thank you. So I'm going to ask another question. I'm going to come back to Matt with this one. What was the moment or series of moments that made you realize something had to change?
I'm a very emotional person, so excuse me. So the series of events that led me to realize that something needed to be changed was the law enforcement officer showing up at my door with my 1.5-year-old in his arms and asking me if I had any kids. And my first thought was, yeah, and I turned around to go get him and then realized my son was in his arms because he had gotten out the back door and ran around and was playing on the sidewalk. That's when everything that I was doing up until that point really hit that, hey, I need to change. There's other people that rely on me, and that's when the selfishness started to diminish. And so my kids, yeah, that's the series of events, because up until that point it was just like Shannon was saying, it's a party time.
How about you, Shannon? What was the moment or series of moments that made you realize something had to change?
Yeah, it's always the kids. It's always the kids. It's definitely, when I had got my kids full time, and even before that a little bit, it just was like, I'm tired of waking up broke. I'm tired of, feeling like this is so fun, can't go to sleep at night. My mornings get away from me. Now it's turning to afternoon. My day getting away from me, and I don't know what day it is now. And it was just like a vicious cycle, but, getting them full time was like, okay, you either wake up or the worst imaginable can happen. And, to me, the worst was kids being put in the system, being split up, never to be seen again. And so that was the snapping point. That was the straw that broke the camel back. That was it.
Wow. How about you, Nicole?
Being up for days and finally getting to sleep and waking up and not knowing what day it was. Going to sleep dark, it's dark outside, and waking up and it's still dark. And so, and not able to get my kids to school, having to give my neighbor a key to my house so that she can come in my house and help me get my kids up for school, wake me up. The principal leaving the school to come to my house to knock on my door so that he can help me get the kids to school. At that point, I knew that I needed to get my life together.
Okay, same question to this side. What was the moment or series of moments that made you realize something had to change? And let's go with Dom first.
I think I didn't care about changing. I didn't until I'd done this drastic thing to some guys that would kill me. I used to rob people. I used to rob drug dealer houses, and I had done it. I got back to my own neighborhood with it. And you use drugs, and you see people in the neighborhood, other people that use drugs, and they be like, hey, they looking for you. So you study hiding and ducking. And I remember it was on January 7th in 99. That's when my journey started. And I asked God, you see, and I'll tell you, God is real in my life. Because I told God, I said, if you're really real, you'll stop this. And I walked a few blocks and I passed out. and the police woke me up. So I got rescued. Be careful what you ask God for, because he'll get you and you don't know how he's going to get you. And I ended up back in San Quentin, you know, but that was the start of my recovery. It didn't go perfect from there until, you know, then, but that was the start of the change of heart, God working on the inside of me. So I didn't care, really. It was, I knew I had a feeling I was going to die like that. But it was a small part of me that I couldn't die. I couldn't die like this, but the other stuff outweighed that. So.
How about you, Amani?
The loss of realizing the things that I had lost, you know, family, losing credibility with people that once trusted me with everything they had. I got to a point where I was like not remembering scriptures and things like that I had embedded in me. And at that point, I knew that I was lost. You know what I mean? I felt lost. I felt hopeless. My attitude had been so bad and so arrogant and so haughty that the people I would reach out to now wouldn't believe me, you know, wouldn't want to deal with me because they thought my attitude, I was just going to get grimy, start cussing them out, you know, very, it was a narcissistic attitude that I had, and God started to tug at my heart, and he just put me in front of the mirror one day and was like, you know, this is who you are now, this is who I created you to be, and once that reality hit, I had to surrender.
Wonderful. All right, here's another question. This is kind of a follow-up question. Did you want help right away, or, you know, was there some resistance to it? Anybody who wants to go first?
I'll say it.
Okay.
I didn't want help right away because I felt like if I can stay up and still participate in the community, be involved in my kids' school, go to church, that I was okay. You know, I can do this. And that kept me in my addiction for years because I was able to still function at some degree. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I can. No, I didn't want help. I wanted to figure out a way to dodge the system and work around through the loopholes. As long as I looked good on the face, that's all that mattered. If I made CPS think that I was a good parent again, I could get my kids back, and it didn't matter. I didn't want help right away. I was far from it. I just wanted to. I made it an art form of manipulation, and you know, we go from there and see where it goes from there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was a master of telling help how to help me. If you was gonna help me, I was gonna dictate how it was gonna happen, and then I get something from you and I'm gone. I think the resistance. I think the day I met God, I think that's when the resistance went away. But all before that, I don't know. It wasn't working. It wasn't working.
Yeah, similar to me. I felt like I knew everything, you know, and you know, being educated and things like that. I thought I didn't really need no help. But then what I realized was that, you know, I asked the Lord, I don't nobody know what's going on with me. You help me, and he locked me in a room and just started to deal with me. So I didn't want help. I could say that I wanted the Lord, but I didn't know why I wanted him at that time. But it was, you know, as time went on, when I got into recovery and things, I realized that I was crying out for help, but I was too arrogant and prideful to ask anybody for that help.
All right. You want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, so I didn't want help. I felt like, you know what, maybe this is too much for the everyday thing. So let me just go to weekends. Let me just party on the weekends, and then on Monday we'll be good again, and then we can get back to work, and then that Friday come, you know, then we'll be back at it like that. But the Sundays started to drag on to the Mondays, and the Thursdays seemed like an early Friday, And so that's kind of how it got mixed up for me. So it was a compounding thing that I just ultimately had to just be like, you know what, that's, like, you just got to stop. That was where I was at. So I didn't want help. I wanted to help myself.
So here's another question. Now we're going to kind of transition into the recovery part of it. And so here's the question I want to ask. What was the hardest part of early recovery that nobody talks about?
I'll go. So everybody talks about everything, actually, so it's kind of hard, but like the friendship circle started to change. Like, people weren't calling me anymore. People weren't excited to hang out with me. I thought that were my friends, and like when I came around and didn't want to indulge or you know, dive into my addiction, you know, when I started to make that change, I was acting funny, and I wasn't, you know, quote unquote cool or things like that. And so for me, it just you gotta find the circle of friends that want to uplift you. And I started to wake up and, you know, see who was uplifted and who was kind of, you know, who was holding me down here and who wanted to see me and will remind me of how I used to be or how we used to spend our Saturdays. And, you know, they would want to bring that feeling up again. So that's what I got.
So everything was difficult. I mean, from a very young age, I had this persona that I had learned and developed to portray to the world, and now I had to fit in with a bunch of individuals that I had nothing in relation to, nothing in common with. That was the biggest thing, and the second thing that was the hardest part was learning how to have fun again. I think Shannon mentioned something about that. For me, it was my whole way of life, and having fun was some type of substance attached to it. So learning in recovery that I could enjoy the things I enjoyed when I was 7, 8, 9 years old before I started using was an eye-opener for me. It was still difficult. You go for so many years not having fun, normal fun, I guess you would say, to learning how to have fun again. And it was, yeah.
For me, it was realizing that I'm no longer going to be attached to this drug that has been a part of my life, who's kept me from Lord knows what experiences that I used to cope, but also that I had to learn to live without it and be have a different perspective of life, and knowing that I have to deal with life on life terms in a healthy way. And for me, it wasn't difficult for me because I've had a lot of years of clean time, and then I had my motivation was my kids and my faith that kept me moving forward.
Okay. Anybody on this end want to address that?
I think it was trusting the process. It was hard to trust the process of recovery when you got people around you that you know in recovery and people tell you everything gonna be all right, one day at a time. Man, look, man, I need a job today. I'm staying in this transitional house with people I don't like, and everybody tell you, man, just be patient, man. And you know, you be on that pink cloud and everything's so good, and then reality sets in. You know, the relationships with your kids. You got to make all these amends to people. You didn't terrorize people's lives. And it's all these things that you got to trust that's going to work out. But the thing that got me through, because I'm a God-fearing God-fearing person, and God is in control. So I always believe that God would get me through somehow because he put me in a position to get here. You know, because when I called on him, he answers. So I'm going to trust God and see if it's all going to work out. And that was still doubtful, you know? So it was just trusting the process and trusting people. Like, people that saying they're my friends and I got your back, it's like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to motivate myself to get nothing from them. You know, and just taking it as in suggestions, like, Dom, just go to these meetings, read this book, call me when you feel like using. So all that was new stuff, you know, because I think most of us are self-centered people, and we can figure it out ourselves. So to let somebody else figure it out for me, that was hard.
So the toughest thing for me in early recovery was realizing the things that I had done. Sitting back, having to look people in the face, like you said, making amends to people, realizing that there are things that I had lost that I might not get back. Realizing that people that trusted me once at one time didn't trust me no more, and that the trust that I wanted to have, that I felt like I should just get overnight, because, hey, look, I'm in the program now, I'm cool. No, you know what I mean? Like, y'all supposed to know I'm serious about this or whatever. And it's like, no, you need to live some life first. Live some life first. So it was, and it was like language. The way I looked at life, the way I looked at women, the way I looked at people. Because I thought I was cool, and then the biggest reality was you wasn't never cool. You know what I'm saying? You wasn't fly out there. You was toe up. You know what I mean? So the reality of what the drugs and alcohol did to me was hard for me to embrace that.
All right, here's an interesting question I want to raise. So I want to talk about quitting and relapsing. And so, what part of relapsing and quitting play in your journey? I mean, relapsing is a part of the journey, right? So let's talk about that a little bit.
For me, I had, my first clean date was August 13, 2005. That was the day that the law enforcement officer came up to my door. I was clean for about 16 years and some change, and played it over in my head that I got this. And when I said I got this, and I stopped letting God lead me and stopped focusing on my recovery, because it's an everyday thing, right? I started to distance. I started to do things that I would have done 15 years prior, and I had a relapse. Luckily, and thank God for me, it was a one-night relapse, and I jumped back on the wagon, so to speak, the next day, called my sponsor, called my mentors and stuff. But I believe God allowed me to go through that because it's part of my story now. Because up until that point, my motto was, relapse doesn't have to be part of your story. It's a part of a lot of people's story, but you don't have to relapse. Stop saying that. But after my own relapse and realizing all of that stuff that I had been learning and put into practice, I kind of set on a back burner when I started saying, I got this. Now it's a part of my story, and now I relate to a lot of my clients, if not every single one of my clients at some point. So yeah, relapse is a part of my journey now, and I have several years clean again, and thank God for that.
All right, anyone else who wants?
I think it depends on what perspective you're coming from when you say relapse and people that's abstinent from drug use or in recovery. When I have done recovery, yeah, I messed up. But since I've been actively in recovery, I haven't thought of relapse and haven't had a relapse. But it's also, I think it's a science to never use it again. And I think if you do everything you don't want to do, you probably won't use drugs again. And when I say that, I mean call your sponsor. I mean go to a meeting. That means, get support. Use people that you're supposed to use. I think those are the things that falls in the way and let us slip into them cracks of relapse, because I don't want to call nobody. When I'm thinking about using, I'm going to try to figure this thought out. Remember, we can figure things out. We great scientists. We are masters of stuff. We can create some stuff in our mind, and this is a dangerous place for us. It's very dangerous, right? So you got to check your thoughts, I still drive down the freeway and get road rage, like, I shouldn't have did that. Wish I could run you off the road. But we're a work in progress all the time. All the time we're a work in progress. So I think if you do the things you don't want to do, I think you'll have a better chance of not relapsing. But if you relapse, get up and come back. Get up and come right back. Shame and guilt. Shame, what guilt? There's two things. Guilt tells you everybody think you bad, and shame tells you I think I'm bad. So those two things we fight all the time within ourselves. So. All right. Anybody else? Okay.
I think, yeah, now that you say that, actually, I think I relapsed more times than I quit. And to be honest, I'm super thankful for my dad's meeting on Tuesdays, because even when I was in my addiction and didn't want to show up to the meetings, I still heard certain things in my head. Like, things still linger with me. And the last time when I did quit, I quit for good, thank God. But it just dawned on me, like, trying to flush things down the toilet, like right after using, saying, all right, I'm quit, I'm good now. It don't work. It didn't work for me. And like, go back, buy some more, go back, buy some more. You know what I mean? Like, all right, this is it. But it was never it until it finally got it. So, yeah, relapsing is a part of the journey, actually. And quitting is the final it. So, that's it.
Anybody else want?
This time around in my recovery, I have not thought about relapsing, and I have not, thank God. But I do always keep in mind where I've been, check myself when I'm speaking on things or thinking things that are not, that may remind me of something that I've done in the past. I utilize my support all the time. I'm always talking about things that I may be experiencing, reaching out to my support, talking to some of my coworkers, Dom and Matt, who are here, and Izzy, she's watching online. We all talk a lot about some of the things that we go through, and we encourage each other. Also, just maintaining every single day my recovery, having an attitude of gratitude, you know, keeping a good relationship with my kids, and with the job that I working with clients as well, just helps me, not only am I helping them, but it helps me as well to remind me of where I've been and why I'm here.
So what I'm hearing is that relapse doesn't have to be a part of your story if you trust the process.
Yes.
If you work the plan, you know, get a sponsor, go to meetings, you know, make sure, everything that you need to be accountable for and responsible for, that you're actually doing those things. And the likelihood of relapsing becomes less and less and less.
And the spiritual connection. Spiritual connection. You gotta have it.
Right.
Whatever that is for you. A rock on the hill, or, some people,
I don't know about no rock, but
some people don't believe in don't believe in what we believe in.
Right. Rock of Ages, Anyway, so here's my next question. So can you all share some signs that someone is potentially, for lack of better words, in relapse mode? They're headed there. So what are some indicators that this person is,
I would say, getting out of your recovery routine. Not stop going to meetings. Not staying in the circle that you're currently in your recovery. Going outside of that circle. Going back into places and hanging out in places that you used to hang out with when you was getting high. I think those are big signs, and not for me, not keeping that the conscious relationship with God. You got to keep a conscious relationship with God, because it says we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God. So once we snatch that back, that's a clear sign that it's probably gonna happen.
I would say a noticeable change in your status quo. So if you're going to meetings, or even if you're not going to meetings, but you're meeting with your friends in recovery, and you start secluding yourself, or you start not paying attention to the simple little things, your daily routines that a lot of us, myself, I do, have made for myself in the morning time. I get up, brush my teeth, make my bed every single day, even if I don't want to. Those are just those little things that keep my attention on the today. If you normally calling people and you stop calling people, if you stop showing up. Relapse starts way before the actual substance goes in your body. So, we look at the emotional, psychological stuff that starts to happen to an individual that starts pulling them into that relapse mode.
Even with that, all that they've said, isolating, not taking your medication, your mental health medication, not doing any self-care, basically just getting out of the routine of what it takes every day to stay sober. Yeah.
All right. You want to respond? Go ahead. No. Okay. So I'm going to throw this in the gumbo. I believe that it's the secrets that keep you sick. Right. So can you talk a little bit about that in terms of, for somebody that's in early recovery, and that fear of coming into a room and they know they got stuff going on and they don't want to talk about it?
Funny that you said that. I was actually talking to one of my clients about secrets, and when you're going into treatment, you want to be totally honest about everything. There's the opportunity for you to talk about whatever it is that you're going through. Usually, I went to Centerpoint for women, so there was this paperwork that they have you do, and there's different topics that address different issues in your life. And for me, I knew I had to be honest, and it was very painful to be honest about a lot of things that I kept to myself because of guilt and shame, but definitely being honest and about your recovery and everything that you need to talk about that kept you in your addiction. And then after that, then you make sure that you're doing everything you need to do, then you won't have any secrets.
I think that's a good example of powerlessness. I mean, to be rigorously, the program says, and anything in life that you do is you have to be honest. I think when you have a friend, when you walk to the store, you got to be honest. Don't steal nothing. So I think honesty is the substance to everything, right? Mm-hmm. So to be rigorously honest, but early recovery, sometimes it's hard to be rigorously honest because, and I think for me, why? Because I didn't trust people. So I can't trust you with the stuff that I don't want to tell you, because then I think you're going to use it against me later on when I do something to make you mad at me. So it's just like this mind, what you do to yourself. We talk about the danger up here, what we think. And I think to be powerless over all your stuff is a scary place to be. And it can run a person out the door, it can draw a person closer to you. So I think the way we work with people is we try to keep it simple as possible, and I think people can relate to us better because we are them, and we get a lot of information out of people, but it was scary. It's very scary, and I think our job is to make people feel safe, to make them feel really safe so they can let us know.
Yeah, and again, that rigorous honesty, because if you're not honest, you haven't admitted to yourself that your life is unmanageable. When you're not honest, you think you holding on to something thinking you can control that. You know what I mean? I can't tell nobody this because it's so horrible, or they ain't gonna like me no more or whatever. But that's where the rooms of AA and NA come in, because you get around people who are rigorously honest about their stories. And once you hear somebody else be honest, then you can be honest too if you want it. And once you realize that you got this disease, one of the keys to getting out of it is being honest. Because if you're not honest, you're not taking the medicine. they're just going, you're not treating your recovery right. So without rigorous honesty, you're going to relapse.
So this raises another question for me. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I'm just curious because I've heard that there's a difference between treatment and recovery.
Oh, yeah.
There's a moment where you're in treatment, and then you transition from treatment into the recovery process. And I've, supporting individuals, trying to encourage them to stay in treatment, and sometimes they think they're in recovery when they're actually in treatment. Right. Right. Can one of y'all speak to that?
It's a stage of change, The treatment part is learning the tools. The recovery part is applying the tools. So once I, because I went through treatment as well, I learned, do a daily journal. Why do I gotta do a daily journal? I don't like journals. I don't like sitting and writing on paper. I'll write a 1,000-page essay, but journal, now I'm telling my feelings. And then I start applying that stuff. I'm doing a daily journal. I'm doing a 5-minute check-in in the morning and night. I'm going to the meetings and, participating in them, whether it's speaking or not speaking or just helping out with coffee. I'm starting to apply. That's how I transitioned the two from treatment to recovery. When I can apply, now I'm in recovery.
So let me, and I appreciate that part of it. So let me talk about it from someone that's going into a recovery or treatment facility. They start out in detox. That's treatment, right? They're there for 30 to 90 days. Is that treatment or recovery?
Depends on where you're at. Depends on where you're going to treatment at, the level of care you're in. So detox is 5 to 10 days detox, and then you move them into treatment because we need to detox you first to get you out the clouds, to stabilize you, to get you stable enough to go into treatment. And I think one thing that's good about treatment is we work in treatment and detox, and I work in other places. But I think treatment gives us the realms to help you see things about yourself that you need to change so you can apply it in recovery, like Matt said, and then you go on to another group of people that hold you accountable. So treatment holds people accountable all the time. Hey man, you can't do that because, and they talk to you like, have one-on-ones, and you get to discuss with them and get them to open their mind to things. Then they go up to the next step. It's like these different steps we take, but there's so many different types of treatment these days.
I would even venture to say, so detox is not, in my opinion, not necessarily treatment. It's a stabilization of a crisis. Right. So when somebody's going to detox, they're in a crisis. They may not be in a crisis in their brain, but their body is in a crisis. Right. And so we use it, as Don was saying, as a 3 to 5 day to get you out of that crisis, start, processing. I don't even talk to my clients till the 3rd or 4th day that they're in detox about what they want to do in the next steps because they're not ready for that. Right. Most of them, 99% of them aren't ready to talk about treatment when they first
they're even going right back out after detox.
Yeah. So it's a stabilization of a crisis and then branches into some sort of treatment, whether it's inpatient or outpatient, and then, in treatment, hopefully at some point they're entering that stage of change where they're starting to apply the recovery, where they can transition to sober living, and then.
But it can happen in stages or happen all at once.
I mean, everything is different it's all different for each. It's an individual thing. There is no special pill and there is no special mark for every single person. Everybody's unique. There's one truth, but there's a million ways to apply that truth for individuals.
Got it. All right. Anybody else want to add to that question?
Yeah, I would say that when you're in treatment, it's really about understanding who you are. Woe is me. You got to understand that this is me. I got to get better for myself. I'm not trying to recover nothing in my life right now. What I'm trying to do is understand who I am, understand this disease. Really getting in touch with the spiritual person inside of you, looking in that mirror daily. I remember my first sponsor told me, first thing I want you to do before we do any step work or anything is for 30 days, I want you to look in that mirror and say something good about yourself. It can't be the same thing every day. You got to say something good about yourself because that's going to make you realize sometimes you got to fight to find that. but it had to be about me. It couldn't be about me getting my family back, about my job back, my status back. In treatment, I had to look at me. And then once that transition came to where I realized that, then I could go into recovery, because then I could start recovering things, you know, some of my morals, you know, other things in life that I wanted to recover. But I think you have to, if you can't get to treatment, it's woe is me. It's like being in surgery, getting the surgery done, that's your treatment, you get out, you know, for a couple of days, then they say, okay, it's time to go to physical therapy. Then that's the recovery.
All right. So still talking about recovery, what surprised you most about the recovery process, whether it was your own or a client that you were working with?
I would say that shoot, listen to a lot of people's stories. I didn't realize that everybody went through all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because I was a very secluded addict. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't just, you know, with everybody, you know, I was doing, but hearing the stories, you know what I mean? Like, wow. You know, sometimes I thought I might, you know, if I wouldn't went through that treatment process, I would have thought I was all right sometimes hearing some of the stories I heard about, you know, drugs and things like that. But yeah.
I think it's that miracles. Like, this is a miracle. It's a miracle and they work. Miracles happen. You know, I should have been dead a long time ago. I'm just grateful and happy that two men in 1954 or something like that sat in a room, a doctor and a psychiatrist sat in a room, and they talked about them two. It started with two people. Now it's a phenomenon across the world, you know? So two people knew me before I knew me. They knew all about me. And if you read the literature, you'll learn all about yourself. It's like, whoa, they knew about me, and they, you know, two white men in somewhere in, Pennsylvania or something like that? Like, how did they know that I would have all these attributes of destruction? So I think it's a miracle that the program exists and that recovery exists for us. And we can't keep it unless we give it away. We got to pass this stuff off to the next person. And I think that's the blessing that we get. We get to give it away. We get to help people. And we get to not be ones that have the ability to never, ever frown down on a person's hardships. You know, because for the grace of God, there goes me. If I make a mistake, I make a bad decision when I wake up in the morning, boy, y'all be like, get him out of Marin City. Like, so I'm just grateful that there's a process for me.
And the question was, what surprised you most about the recovery process, either for yourself or a client that you were worked with?
What surprised me most is that it could be done. That I have a strong support system that supports me in doing that, and my spouse. Like, I got to give it up to Alexis. Like, she really helped me be in recovery, and it wasn't for a positive relationship. If it wasn't for a positive relationship, then I don't think that step would have been possible for me.
For me, it was the fact that whether a little old white boy from Shasta County, somebody from LA, somebody from the Bay Area, somebody from way over in the Middle East can suffer from the same thing with so much similarity, as Don was talking about, that it's talked about in the book. And it's only one book. You have the NA and the A, but it's the same principles, and they're just worded differently a bit. But that we could all rise above in the book, it talks about a higher power. My higher power is God. For others, it's different, but that we can all rely on our higher power to bring us up out of the muck that we created for ourselves and be sitting on the stage like this. Like, I never would have thought in a million years that, like I was saying earlier, that I'd live to the next day, let alone be talking to a bunch of people that I can see and that I can't even see about being able to rise up out of, the muck and the mire. That's what surprised me the most. And it didn't come right away. It came steps and increments. And the more that I gave myself the permission to receive the, I won't say accolades, but the compliments, because compliments is still hard for me, but gave myself permission to receive the compliments, the more I started just really loving it. That's what surprised me most about recovery.
All right. I want to be a good host, and this is about transparency. And so I didn't get these folks some water. And can we get some water up here? All right, all right. We did that live on camera here. So, all right, all right. So great answers, guys. Really appreciate it. And so here's, and we'll do a couple more questions, then we'll open it up to the audience. And so, what role does community and faith, or even structure, play in your recovery, or recovery in general?
Plays a big part, because community, you change your community when you get clean and sober. And those communities that you go into, when they support you, it strengthens your recovery. When they understand that, because you got to be honest and say, hey, I got this disease. Do you want to, can you deal with this? And so when they, it's a great thing to, I think, and I put this more towards the community to say you have to be able to have patience with addicts and alcoholics. When they're in recovery, you can't give up on them, quick. You know what I mean? You can't reject them. You can't just say, hey, stop using. Because if you don't understand recovery, and that's why I'm glad we can do this. Like, we in the church right now doing this. For years, churches, their answer was, here, let me pray for you, and stop. But it takes people to embrace and understand that these people, these addicts and alcoholics, they need your support. And that's why so it plays a big part, my relationship with God, my church home, my family, my wife, my children. It plays a big part, because if you can't find no support, you're not gonna be able to make it, because you're gonna feel like those people out there support me more than these people in here. And so family and community and faith community plays a very important part. It's the fuel for my recovery.
For me, getting out of treatment and coming back to the community, it showed that I'm no longer part of the problem, and that I'm part of the solution, and that there's hope. And also, keeping my faith as the focus, as the center of everything. And I think that it models that recovery does work, that it's possible, and that if I can do it, then anybody can do it. And I thank God for my church and for my community. I no longer live in Marin City, but I did come back here for about a year or two after I got out of treatment. But I think this very important aspect of your recovery is your community and your faith.
For me, structure was super, super important, and still is today, because, when I was in my active addiction, structure was absolutely not part of my life. But today, structure and that discipline play a really big key role in me continuing forward without looking for ways to go left and right. And community, probably going to get a lot of crazy comments, but I don't believe NA is for everybody. And the reason I say that is because my ex-wife, she's been clean as long as I've been clean without NA. I needed that community. She had a different type of community. But community, regardless if it's in the NA room, the AA room, church, whatever that community is, individuals we need as addicts need that community and need that support to lift us up, because most of us, myself, speaking for myself, didn't feel like much. So for me, the NA community though was that's how I got clean. Without them, I don't think I would have been able to.
Thank you. I think it's really, as years has went by, I think the community has really became a part of healing the community. I think a lot of community work is going on, especially with Pastor Leggett and the work he does in the community. And you know, you're starting to see it around the world, that a lot of communities are coming in to help people, because I think we're in a crisis. People die now. People die at high rates. So I think the community is really tired of their family members, and it hits everybody. You know, nobody's exempt from this. And as Matt said, you can go to AA, NA, CA, anything to keep you away from the DA is cool. any A you do. Whatever A it is, it works for you. Like my dad was here. My dad been clean, I think, 31 years, and he shot 5 to 6 grams of heroin a day. My dad suffers from HIV. T-cell count is normal. He'd never done a meeting in his life. He tell me, like, why you going there listening to people talk about drugs? That don't work for him. So anybody can get it, and I think it's the connection with a power greater than yourself that gets you through. I think it's about God. It's about the God in you. And even if you fall short, we fall short daily on just behaviors. You know, we got to check our behaviors daily. But one thing I think us up here that we know, we can't pick up.
Come on.
Picking up is not the answer. You know, so I think it's just great that we have a community past the meeting deck, you know, the meeting rooms. I could talk to Nicole. I can talk to Shannon. Shannon looks out. You know, it's just so many things. Gifts. We get gifts. Oh, man, I get the chills.
There you go.
We get gifted just for doing right. Come on.
That part.
Yeah, that's real. And yeah, that is true. I mean, you kind of took the words almost out of my mouth, but community is definitely important when you're going on the right path. And I think I was like guided by a lot of my grandmother's prayers, and like being young in addiction, and like having like, you know, community see me grow up and be raised, and, you know, knowing who my dad was or who my grandparents was, kind of, you know, steering, like seeing older folks always was like, uh-oh, I shouldn't do something around them, right? And so as I got older, I just started to respect more, and it became more of a cycle of just, you know, respecting the elders and not, you know, not coming to church blazed and, you know, things like that, right? It's just things you just didn't do that I could not do. And like knowing you for as long as I've been knowing you, Pastor, you've been a great help too, because you never like judged me out of the church. Like you always were like, come on in, you know, and, you know, counseling, whatever you need, and it was cool. And then, like I said, being around positive relationships, so, and then routine. So the gym was definitely a big help for me. I'm not a super good boxer, but I could fight. But anybody can fight in the gym. So that's where I release a lot, though. You know, I'm not like big on being super emotional or like venting a lot, but if I do tend to hold things in, I know that that's my comfort where I can release it. Or I could show up on Tuesday to the meetings and I could release it. Or I could hear something even if I don't want to release, and I could think and cycle, you know, just showing up to positive meetings. It kind of keeps that relapse thought away, right? And then I think I heard you mention gratitude. Having a consistent attitude of gratitude is definitely helpful.
All right, wonderful. Did we get everybody? Everybody had a chance? Okay. So I want to talk about triggers. What do you do today? You know, if you do get triggered, what do you do today?
Man, you know, for me, if I get triggered and you know, and those thoughts come, I'm gonna be honest, I think about the come down off drugs. Once I think about that, I'm like, oh no, you know, because you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh no, you know, I get mean, hostile, you know, start plotting and scheming and all that. So, you know, when I get triggered about using or something like that, I just think about the come down, because, you know,
So is that like the consequences?
yeah, the consequences, the consequences. Yep, I think about the consequences. I used to have a dream, when I was in the program, I had a dream that I left the program, got high and came back. And I was like, oh man, now I done ruined everything, and I thought, I thought it was a bad dream, but what I figured out was God was saying, if you use, this is the consequence. You gonna destroy everything you work for. And so, the consequences.
So trigger-wise is, I'm originally from Mount Shasta. So over here in the Bay, I don't have a lot of people from my old lifestyle around. Practically none. I think I've seen one. And so today when I'm triggered, thinking about old stuff I used to do or whatnot, my biggest thing is, my biggest coping skill other than sleeping, because I don't get enough of it, is picking up that phone. One of the things I talk about with a lot of the clients is practice those coping skills when you don't need them. So pick up that phone, call a sponsor when you just want to say hi, because it's easier to call them when you're feeling triggered. For me, it's picking up that phone. Or talking to my coworkers when I'm at work, and not being secretive. So I still feel at times that shame and that guilt. I'm sure a lot of us do. And I feel at times when I get in my brain that, I should, that word should, right? Should be better today than I was before. And so I'm transparent about that. I've told my coworkers, a few times throughout this last year, hey, the other day I was, thinking about going to the TL. And that's a very real thing, Tenderloin. And by me being open and honest about it and not keeping it hidden and picking up that phone when I need to, that's how I get through my triggers today.
For me, it's more of an internal trigger, thoughts. Every now and then I might get a thought, a shameful moment, but I have to be mindful that I am a new creation, that I have been forgiven, that I'm no longer living that life anymore. And so that's what keeps me when I feel like my thoughts go back to, girl, remember when you was doing this? Remember her? And I'm just like, nope, I don't think so. And I began to pray, and I began to remind myself who I am, and talk about it.
Yeah, that's real. I think, I don't think I get triggered anymore, actually. I think that right when it tries to, I'm like, nope. It's a no. It's a straight no. I think of the consequence, the waking up, the impulsiveness, the being broke, and today I'm trying to build up, and so if I'm going backwards and being broke, that's not for me today. That's who I was, and the drugs these days are killing people. So it would be just my luck to end up flat out. I'm just like, nah, you already 10 steps above that. Like, you already 10 steps above that. If anything, you trying to save somebody's life from being that. Like, I done lost friends recently from not stopping. And so the trigger, it don't really have an effect on me because I'm just like, Narcan, and can't nobody save me if I'm secretively trying to get triggered but me. So, nah, I don't play the trigger game.
Thank y'all for that. Y'all had great information. Thank you. I think the disease is tricky. It's very tricky. They say cunning, baffling, and powerful.
Come on.
Cunning, it comes, even if I don't think about drugs as a trigger, everything else can be a trigger. Mm-hmm. Like I say, driving down the freeway, I'm triggered by tennis shoes. I love shoes, man. I see in the colors, and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna buy them, and I don't even need it. But now I'm learning, I'm doing step work around tennis shoe buying.
No.
So, triggers, it don't have to be drugs for us. We get other obsessions now. Addictive behaviors, we try to find stuff to want to be addicted to. So we always got to be mindful of the things we do. And I think as recovery grows in us and the more process that we and I have done, places don't trigger me no more that I used to use drugs, so I got new memories there now. So I think and I'm not saying the disease ain't tricky, But, you know, like I go back to my old neighborhood now, and everybody see me like, what's up, Dom? Everybody, like, when you got out of prison? What? When I got out of prison? No, you just ain't in the places I am now.
There you go.
So that's why you don't see me. So it's like my neighborhood is new to me. You know, I grew up in Hunters Point, so it's like I see people, hey, how you doing? And it don't really bother me like it used to go back there because I've made new memories. I work over there now. I help people now. So I see it differently. So our perception on things changes as recovery sets in on us too. So I think we mature. We grow up. So everything don't be as dangerous as it used to be, but we always got to be careful of our disease because it's sneaky.
There you go.
So it acts out in different ways.
I got one more question, then we're going to open up for some questions from the audience. And if you can go around each of you and very briefly share who you are now compared to who you were then. Who you are now compared to who you were then.
Ladies first.
You want to go?
Back then, I was putting on a facade that I had it all together, that nobody can tell that I'm using, had a little makeup going on and everything. But today, I am a woman of God. I walk in integrity, respect, and honesty. I give back to the community by the job that I do, working at Helen Vine. I go out and speak at Centerpoint at times, and plan on going to NA meetings, but I'm a totally different person today. I'm a new creation in Christ. The old is gone and the new has come. Thank you. Period.
So the old me would have not been here, and the new me is a father, a photographer, a choir singer, new membership class graduate. Thanks, shout out to Sister Angela right there. I'm a mentor. I'm a community member. I'm a good son. Shout out to Pops over there.
Let him say that.
And I'm the best version of myself that I could possibly be today. So that's what y'all get right now.
Who I was before the change was a very ugly individual, selfish. I only had people around me because I needed something. You were only around me if you could give me something, whatever it was. Shannon stole mine, but today I am the best version of myself that God created me to be. I made a vow to God and myself over a decade ago to do no harm, and that's even to myself. So in everything that I do, I think about the consequences of what my actions may be. Now I fail, I'm human, I might learn from that. I make the wrong decisions sometimes even after thinking about it for a couple days. But today I'm somebody that I live up to the integrity that I have placed upon myself. And I'm just an awesome guy today.
In my addiction, I'm mean. I'm arrogant. I think I'm flashy. I'm a slick talker, liar, manipulator. But me today, I try to be more humble. I'm a husband. I'm a better husband, a good husband, a father, a Christian, a preacher, a mentor, a mentee. I lean on my sponsor. I got sponsees. I'm a God-fearing man today. I'm in love with Jesus.
That was bad. Just sum that up how you want to sum it up. I was Satan himself. If that's what you want to call it. Today, oh man, I'm a lot of things today. I'm a director of programs. I'm a college graduate. I'm a coworker. I'm a dad that get pushed over by his kids, get misused by his kids. I'm a husband. I'm a brother-in-law. I'm a good son to my parents. You know, I have both of my parents still, and I think that my dad always in awe of me. I'll be like, come on, man. Like, my dad is just so proud of me, and it means a lot to me. You know, I have a good relationship with my mother. I mended. I'm still a work in progress. I'm still working on some things. You know, there's some people that I would hope to forgive me for things I did, and they still hold on. And that's okay. That's their journey. That's their suffering, really. It's their suffering. I try to show up the best way I can, and I'm okay with making mistakes. You know, I'm okay with being wrong. I'm okay with being angry, as long as it doesn't harm nobody. I'm okay with a lot of things, but what I try to do is I wake up every day and say, God, just let me help somebody today and don't let me use drugs. Those are two things that I want every day. You know, let me get out of myself and help me stay in myself. So I think it's just a good thing. I'm in a good place in life, and I'm happy.
All right, wonderful, thank you. So we're gonna ask some questions. We need a couple of microphones. They're coming. All right, this has been great, hasn't it? All
Yeah.
right.
I want to thank you all for your testimonies and your transparency. The question that I have is that if we, of us in the audience, are trying to assist someone in getting help for their substance abuse, what does that process look like?
First and foremost, meet them where they're at. We meet with non-judgment, understanding, empathy, compassion, reaching out to the lifelines, whatever they may be. If they're in crisis, call Helen Vine here in Marin County. You know, if they're suicidal, call 988. It's a great number, 988. But yeah, meet them where they're at. And I didn't really have anybody, because of the situation that led to me stopping using, I didn't have anybody come up and be like, hey, you're using too much, you need to stop. I didn't really have that. It was the cops, I did what they said, that's it. So for me, meeting with my clients at intake at Helen Vine, it's like, what do you need? You know, we're going through the intake process, like, what do you need? I have my standard questions that I have to ask for the intake, but there needs to be some type of connection there. And figuring out the needs of an individual are the most important first step. Because just because they may be coming off of some type of substance, they may be suffering more from a mental health crisis, and that goes to a different referral. The co-occurring disorders, we're getting ready to go into Mental Health Awareness Month, so co-occurring disorders are very rampant amongst our community. It's not just drug use, it's mental health issues. So finding out their needs, finding out what they want at that moment, what they need at that moment, that's the first step.
Also, I mean, my trick question is, how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, tell me how I need to help you. Because a person, they got all the answers. It's just, do they trust me enough to give it to me? So I kind of put it back on them a lot of times, like, tell me how I need to help you. Most of y'all know I'm at the Marin City Clinic. I mean, Shannon used to do a group for years at the clinic with me. Well, I should let him do it. But they moved us up to Terra Linda now, the whole substance use department at Marin City Clinic. But a lot of y'all know me. Y'all could just call me. I got a program for alcohol use disorder and opiate use disorder. And I'm also at Helen Vine too. So we got two different resources right here. But and you got to be patient. Some people ain't ready. Some people aren't ready for help yet. But just because a person's not ready don't mean that you have to be tortured too. Let's just keep it real. You don't have to be tortured because they don't want help yet. So we got to learn some healthy boundaries. How do I be healthy with my son who still want to use drugs? How do I still love on him the way, I want to? And I know it's different for mothers and fathers a lot of times. That's in the years I've been working, I've seen that. Mothers will hold on to the dying day. That's their baby. Fathers would be like, boy, get it together. So I know I would. You better get it together, dude. So it is tough. It's really tough to watch your family member, your son, father, cousin, watch them suffer. And you can't help them. It leaves you helpless. But you just got to be patient. Keep praying, and keep reaching out. Like, hey, I'm here for you. But I'm here for you when you're ready. But I'm not finna do the chaos with you. It's okay to have boundaries. It's really okay. You're not a bad person having boundaries because you got to keep yourself safe in the process.
So, hi, thank you for that. You almost answered my question. My question was, if you have a person who their mom is paying their bills, their mom is paying for them a room, and it's almost like you're not trying to get no help because your mom is taking care of everything. So you kind of almost answered my question, but what can you do? What can, besides patience, like you said, try to help? How can, you just can't reach that person. But I did have 2 questions, if you don't mind. So a great person who was just a great person today because, like, as an advocate and recovering from drugs and did everything under the sun, I look at that person, I'm like, how do you go in them neighborhoods? How you go in that environment where, where they're at? And they told me, they said, I could go anywhere now because I'm free from all that. And and so sometimes I tell that to people when we have the groups and stuff. I'm like, you're free because you could go anywhere. How you feel about me saying that? Because that might have just been that person's experience.
Hello. I agree. If you can go places and you know that you have been set free from drugs and alcohol, you know it within yourself, there's nowhere you wouldn't go.
So for me, realizing that, we have a standard thing that we read to our clients before they come into Helen Vine, and they're not supposed to be bringing any drugs or alcohol or weapons, and sometimes they do. I feel I'm free to go anywhere now because, having a client come in and there's a big rock right there in the middle of the table, and my first thought was, let me just get that away from you so we can help you. There was no thought of, oh man, for me. So that's a freeing experience. I can't really talk about being free to go anywhere I want nowadays. Like, I can go walk around the Tenderloin. It was never one of my issues. Get me back up in Shasta County. We'll see how that goes in a couple of years. But as long as I'm walking with God and free, feeling free in my spirit, I agree with that statement. As far as the mama, I can't speak for moms, but from the moms that I've experienced in my line of work, y'all want the best for your babies. You want them to not be, I want the same for my kids. It's a little different, like Don was saying. But mamas want the best for their kids, and they want them to be healthy and not feel sick. And so some mamas are willing to pay those bills, give that $40, put you up in a motel room with whoever, because at that point, for those moments, they're not sick. It's a codependency thing. Right. But, we still have to meet them. There's a great program called Al-Anon for families of addicts. Right. And it teaches us in those types of groups that our families suffer just as bad as we do, if not more, you know? And so, but we still have to meet the family members where they're at too. You know, I can't very well tell Nicole, you're doing your kid harm because that. I got to figure out a different way to word that, because the mom's not going to receive that. My baby's not sick if he's using right there. You know?
And I would say too that you're free to go what you're ready to go, but you got to know you got that disease. If you don't keep that conscious thought in your head that I'm an addict, I have this disease, then you're not ready to go anywhere. Because you can be free to go there, but when you acknowledge that you have the disease, you put the proper guards up around your life and your lifestyle wherever you go and whatever you're doing.
And also, you'll know, it's dis-ease. Disease, dis-ease. So you have dis-ease. You feel it. You feel it. And for mama, all I can say is healthy boundaries. It's really tough. It's a whole lot of work going that. It's a whole lot of stuff come with, that's therapeutic. That's deep therapy. That's deep therapeutic work, you know, to detach, you know, because it's hard to say, Mom, don't pay the bills. You'll mess up your friendship with that person telling them to stop helping their kid. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to tread lightly around it, you know, because you want to support it, but you also don't want to, you know, push it either. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Shannon, yeah, sorry.
Testing. This is addressed to the panel. I love the way you guys presented this, but Pastor Leggett read the litany prayer, and in the litany prayer, it was some powerful stuff. He kept saying, what we are supposed to say, deliver me from what? A lot of times when you come into this recovery, people look at the front of addiction. But let me ask you this. How do you deal with inherited trauma bonding? How do you look at step one that says first we admit we're powerless over our addiction and compulsive behavior in our life is unmanageable? He had it in the litany, compulsion. And when you're talking spiritual, it say, I love what I hate and I hate what I love. I don't know why I do the things I do. How do you help somebody understand what they facing is sometimes it's inherited?
So speaking of how I help my clients with that particular thing, is assessing the stage of change they're in, right? Because if they're in the I don't have a problem stage, then there's nothing you can say to get them to realize they're powerless over their addiction, or that they even have that dis-ease that we call of addiction. And if they're in the stage where we can have that conversation, for me, I always tell my clients, and I'm always just that integrity thing I was talking about, I'm 100%, I'm very transparent. And so give it to them raw. Where did your best decisions lead you? At jails, institutions, you know, sitting on the street, begging for money to get food or whatnot, you know, and then those are their best decisions. That's where their best decisions left them. Well, what was the main, the common denominator of all those decisions? Was it your meth use? Was it your alcohol use, heroin use, your substance use? If that was the common denominator, then you were powerless because there was nothing you can do, because every single major decision that you did, your best decisions led you exactly where you were, and now we're getting to talk. And I'm glad we're getting to talk. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you to make a different decision. I'm glad you're here talking to me, but this is where your best decision led you. So now we can have a real raw talk. And more often than not, you see that light click on, and it's like, oh, But then you get the individuals that like, okay. And I have to be okay with that. Non-judgmental, compassionate, meet them where they're at.
It's, trauma. Trauma is not what happened to you. It's what happened inside of you. So we got to first recognize that. So how do we work on what happened to me as a kid and how it's a response, right? So how we respond to things, and now we perceive life this way, and we keep living in this cycle of trauma. It's passed down from families. Kids are abused, women were abused, we're beaten, all this. I was abused as a kid. I was tortured by my grandmother. So now, every time I spank my son, that trauma, I was like, oh, I better stop. So I get to thinking like I'm an abuser. That's trauma. So we live with it, but if we don't learn to recognize when it's rearing its head, the traumatic things that happen to you, and you bringing it out in the world, you got to learn how to recognize what it is first. Because a lot of people don't even know what it is. You know? It's a response. We respond to things. You know? And I want to share some real, can I share some with y'all real quick? Go ahead, somebody else can go right now.
Yeah, there another question?
I'd like to know if any of the panel feels like that abusive personalities is inherited. Because I come from a family of 8 siblings, and out of the 8 siblings, 4 of them had abusive personalities: alcohol, heroin, cocaine. So and that was, for me, that was a fear for me, and I praise God. I ask him every day, Lord, please do not let me go down that path. And it was a struggle for me because I grew up in the 80s, in the 90s, where drugs were flowing freely. So it was, and I looked at my peers, and I looked at my siblings, and I saw that that type of behavior, that was not a good look for me. And that's what saved me. I praise God for it every day, every day. So my question was, do any of you feel like abusive personalities is inherited? Is it baked in the gene pool?
I want to comment on that.
Go ahead.
I believe so. I believe that it's a generational curse. I'm going to use my family for an example. My grandfather used to beat on my grandmother. And so my mom and her siblings watched that. They grew up in that dysfunction. So you see that and you think that that's what it's supposed to be like, because that's what you see, you know? And I'm sure there was some type of feeling of discomfort, fear, but this is what you've grown into. This is the house that you were brought into. And so as my mom and her siblings got older, my uncle abused his kids. My mom got abused, right? And then it just went down the cycle. I've gotten abused, you know. I didn't never see my mom. I did see the aftermath of her getting abused, but I know that she witnessed it as a kid, you know, witnessed her mom being abused. So I believe it is a generational curse, and it has to be broken. So it's up to the individual in that moment. It was up to me to break the cycle so that it doesn't go down to my kids.
So it becomes normalized. We normalize stuff, right? So
Definitely.
what I want to share with y'all is, there's 4 reasons people change. There's something I was writing with there, but I couldn't remember. It said, people change when they're hurt enough that they have to. When they've seen enough, they're inspired to. When they learn enough, they want to. And when they receive enough, they're able to. 4 reasons people change. She hit it on the head. I think we normalize abuse, especially in the inner communities, in our black communities. It's been normalized for years because, like Nicole said, it came down from my grandmother. And here it is, I lived in a house and my grandmother abused me, tortured me, but my grandfather never spanked me a day in his life. And the abuse didn't start till he was dead. So after he was my protecting God, he was my angel. I was his baby. So he died, it just happened. So something happened to grandma, something happened to your grandparents, it's just normalized, and it's the way we discipline people, and that's why I said what I said about me and my son. I have to really, because getting a whooping is how you get a kid straight. Is it? It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me, so that's not the answer. So, and I need to be honest and talk about things. That's the mistakes I make in life. Like I say, I'm still a work in progress. But I don't use. Not today.
So for me, the argument, the discussion of nature versus nurture, I'm on the fence because I believe it's a little bit of both. Most definitely do I believe that when we grow up in a household where there's any type of abuse, it's a learned behavior. We learn that it's okay. We start to rationalize that that's how we treat women. That's the coping skill that we have. That's how I treat dad when dad comes home, whatever it may be. But I also believe we have some inherency because of the simple fact that other individuals went through the same type of abuse I went through, and they didn't turn to the same coping skill I did. Why is that? We have this thing in psychology called predisposition. Individuals are predisposed to something in their life, and it continues. Whether we attach generational curse to it, which I believe in that as well, or the nature part, right? It comes down through our gene pool. But the argument against that, it would be everybody that went through the same abuse I went through and learned that would do the same type of thing I did. That doesn't happen, you know. So for me, it's a little bit of both. I know that I learned the behavior of the things that I did from the individuals in my life, but I also had a pulling towards certain things. So a little bit of both for me.
Question up front. This will be our final question, and we'll have a wrap-up.
Already?
So when we talk about addiction and the research and the work you all have done on addiction, I have a question because in 5th grade, my teacher told us, if we had parents of addicts, we would become addicts too. So that implies a genetic predisposition to being an addict. In your coursework, do you see generations of addicts come through Helen Vine and stuff like that?
Most, go ahead, Don. Yeah?
That's a lie. Yeah. That's a lie. It happens. It happens, but I think Matthew made a good point when you talk about environment, because you could take the same kid and put him in 3 different environments and get 3 different outcomes. Mm-hmm. You know, you take the kid, put him in a loving home, never exposed to anything, that kid might go to Harvard. You know, you take this kid, put him in the inner city with some gangsters, and he might assimilate to that. So I think environment plays a big part in how we turn out. So that's, the teacher told you the great wide, uneducated lie. So a lot of people are not educated on what really goes on with substance use and addiction and treatment, and it's a lot of stigma, a lot of wrong information is out there, so read. Yeah. Read. YouTube got a lot of stuff, find your own information. But you're fine, right? There we go.
So for me, I've seen both sides of the coin, and as Don was pointing out, so I've seen individuals come in that their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, their great-great-grandparents were addicts, right? And they themselves chose that as a coping skill. I keep using it as a coping skill because our substances that we use as addicts are a coping skill for whatever we're going through in life. Whether that's we're trying to learn how to have fun, trying to get away from the abuse or whatever the trauma that our bodies are going through, whatever it may be. But I've also seen the opposite, where somebody comes from a very affluent family, very well-to-do. They had private school. They had everything given to them. You know what I mean? They were coddled, so to speak, if we want to say that word. Their parents weren't addicts. They have no addiction in their known history, but yet they're sitting in front of me after years of abuse. So I don't agree with your teacher that just because your parents are addicts that you're going to become an addict. The possibility is, or the capability is very much higher for you because you're learning that that coping skill. We can put the fact of smoking cigarettes. If your parents smoke cigarettes, the likelihood of you smoking cigarettes is like 80% more, right? But doesn't necessarily mean you're going to smoke. I have a best friend that his parents smoked his whole entire life. He can't stand cigarettes, right? So like Don was saying, it's a very what'd you say, an uneducated lie? You know, it's something that they learned in their school book. One thing that we learn in our school books is that when we go to work in the field and we're actually, you know, knee-deep working with everybody that we work with, our textbooks come up maybe 10% of the time. And most of the stuff that I do is on the fly from my own lived experience.
All right, so I want to wrap up here. Thank you all for taking those questions. And so I want each of you to answer this question. For someone sitting here tonight who is struggling in silence, what would you say directly to them? Or even online tonight, because we're online.
You're not alone. You are not alone. You're not unique. There's a lot of people just like you, and here we are, you know, so you're not alone.
So you don't have to stay in bondage. There are people out there who are concerned and been educated in this field. Go to a place where you can be accepted, and I'd say those rooms will be NA and AA. If you need a place to, if you need a place to go and to express yourself in a way that you don't feel like you got to hold nothing back, you know. But like he said, you're not alone. You're loved, and beneath those layers of that addict and that alcoholic, it's a good person there with some good values. Just needs to be brought out of you.
Couple of things. One thing that one of my first mentors in recovery told me is good. We're not making excuses. We're making change. Good, bad, or indifferent. Facts are facts, right? And you're worth it. You're worth the change that you want to make in your life, even if you don't realize it today. You have so much potential. Everybody may not see it around you. Stop listening to all the garbage people saying about you. You're worth it. I'm here to tell you, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I feel still today, I was the worst of the worst. You'll hear a lot of addicts say it, but I honestly believe I was the worst of the worst. If I can be sitting here talking, you're worth it. Anybody can do it. And it's not going to be easy, because anything worth having takes some hard work.
Somebody listening, I would just say your best version is waiting on you. I don't have a clinical response at all, but you know, when you're ready, your best version is waiting on you. You could trust the process, and you can find support to work through it together. You don't have to do it alone. There's communities out there, there's communities here that understand what you're going through, and just run your own race. Just run your own race. Comparison is a thief of joy. So just be you and be the best version of yourself that you can be.
You all touched on most of the things that I wanted to say, but I also want to say that you're not alone, and that I thought my situation, my drug use, was unique, but it's not, and that there's help out there. And if you know someone that you can call to support you, to walk with you, to take that step, then call them. And if I'm standing here, sitting here, and they are as well, that it works, and to trust the process.
All right. Come on, let's give them a hand, this wonderful panel. A couple of things before we end. There is a resource page behind me, and you can take a screenshot of that, of where you can go and get some information, or you need a program, whether it's an outpatient program or an inpatient program. There's information, and we encourage you, if that's you tonight, that you need that help, to go and get that help. If it's a loved one, encourage them to get that help as well. There's also a bunch of information out in our vestibule that you can take with you as well. And then finally, we have a QR code. We want to assess what we've done here tonight, and we want to improve on what we've done. And so please take out your phones if you can, and you can scan that QR code, and please fill out the survey, because it's important. It's important for you all to share with us what this experience was like for you. And perhaps, if you think of some ways that it needs to be improved, because we will do this again. And so take a moment to do that, and we really appreciate that. And those of you online, I hope you would do the same. All right. And so finally, this was put on by the First Missionary Baptist Church Mental Health Advocacy Team. And we have members here. We're grateful for all of you. And those of you who are here in person, or those who are watching online, I want to just let you know that First Missionary Baptist Church is a safe place. We welcome everybody. Come as you are. Bring it all here. And we can all together give it to our God, to my rock. And we'd love to have you here. So please know this is a safe place for you wherever you are, whether you're here in person or you're watching online. Please, if you need our help, please reach out to us. All right. Okay, Brother Shannon's going to come up and lead us in the Serenity Prayer, and we've got some wonderful refreshments next door, so please take advantage of those refreshments.
Thank the panel for a great job.
We can't hear you online.
For a great job. Normally, the way that we close out with the Serenity Prayers, we all hold hands in a circle. Can we do that, Pastor?
You can do that.
Can we all just stand up and hold hands together? Come on in the circle. What this circle represent, like he asked you earlier, you never have to do this alone. You're holding hands with support. Make the circle. Make the circle. Once again, you don't have to do this alone. Let's go. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it, so work it.